I'm watching my New York Post this morning because I want to go through some of the headlines after this Jets loss. This was a coup de grace from the Post. You'll never make it, Y-U-L-E, okay? Sleigh ride, S-L-A-Y, to their season, okay? How about Feliz Navidad?
What's my favorite
These are
one?
all headlines in the Post this morning. And then, of course, Christmas jeer.
Peter, hold that up. The fan has a sign that
What's
says,
it say, Kyle?
all I want for 2023 is for Zach not to be our QB. That's me.
Okay, that's rhyming.
Like,
Poetic.
whatever, that's
Tough.
a fan.
It's mean.
Say whatever you want.
This market was alive, and like a month ago, they've lost 4 straight games, and I'm looking at the Jets and how they salvage this season going into next season, but also potentially still make the playoffs. They weren't eliminated last night. Now, do they have a rallying cry around them? Let's look at the Jets' remaining schedule. The New York Jets, what do they need to do? Look below me right here on what we call a lower third.
Oh, wow. Way to call
it's
for it,
only
Peter.
2 games.
At Seahawks, at Dolphins. They could beat the Seahawks.
Wait, who starts for next week for the Jets?
It doesn't matter. They could beat the Seahawks.
What do you mean it
Doesn't matter.
Go into Seattle and beat the Seahawks, and then the Dolphins.
That's such an indictment on the
Dolphins.
Seahawks.
They might already have everything locked up, or it could be a win and in for both teams.
Sure.
Dolphins.
Sure.
I don't know. The truth of the matter is this: this Jets season was supposed to go differently. That roster is absolutely loaded except for one position, the quarterback spot. And I look at Zach Wilson now because this could go down as one of the greatest draft misfires in the history of the sport. That sounds like I'm being hyperbole, and I've seen Jamarcus Russell, I've seen Ryan Leaf, but to draft a quarterback 2 overall and build so well around him, and then to not have the most important possession hit, it would be crushing. And I look at the Jets from a local perspective here in New York because if they don't make the playoffs, they might have to get rid of or replace a 2nd overall pick before his rookie contract is even up. If they do make the playoffs and Zach does get back on the field, they can salvage this thing. I find it a fascinating scenario because I mentioned earlier, Joe Douglas very possibly, Joe Douglas possibly could be the GM of the year. He's drafted Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. That could be the offensive and defensive rookie of the year. He could be the GM of the year and also be the same guy who has this on his resume. This is so fast. It just shows me in the NFL and roster building, you need to get the quarterback right. They didn't draft Justin Fields. They didn't draft Mac Jones. They didn't draft Trey Lance. They drafted Zach Wilson, and they drafted him 2nd overall. And I'm curious to see how the final few weeks go because, to me, it's a bigger picture than just getting in the playoffs or getting out of the playoffs. It's what do you make of this franchise and what do you make of that young man under center? Because last night, he just didn't have the goods.
Yeah, it sounds like you're asking for a Christmas miracle. Jets in the playoffs, beating Seattle.
Yeah.
I don't see
You know, it's like, well, that team is awesome. Do you know what our American cousin is? That's the play that Lincoln was seeing. The joke, other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Other than the quarterback, how's the team, Mr. Douglas? It's all, I don't, you have a great cornerback. Who cares?
You're rookies.
We need the kid to play. It's tough.
I'm going to go somewhere in the AFC that I feel like you could, any month, any week of the year, you could say this. Does anybody want to play the Kansas City Chiefs right now?
Right.
At home? I don't see it. I don't think so. I know the Bills own the head-to-head, the tiebreaker. They're still the top spot in the AFC. But my goodness, what the Chiefs have been doing the last couple weeks. Patrick Mahomes, talk about nailing the quarterback spot with your draft pick.
Yeah, trading up to get him.
He is unbelievable. He's continuing to be unbelievable. He's leading the league in touchdown passes right now with 35. Isaiah Pacheco out of Rutgers, something special. Everyone at the table here loves the way he runs.
Big fan of Pacheco.
Obsessed with his high knees, and he gets out, he avoids tackles. Travis Kelce is at the top of his game, potentially for his position in history. And then just casual Juju Schuster-Smith and wide receivers aplenty, and the defense is great. Chris Jones, the defense, telling his teammates, stay off Twitter. You know, people criticize. No, stay off Twitter so your head doesn't get too big because the Chiefs, people are loving them. They're playing so well.
There's an argument that they're not being loved. A lot of people are saying the Chiefs are being taken for granted and that Mahomes is being for granted. So take it from that angle, because I think it's interesting. We don't want to see the Chiefs, and yet every other show is doing a hype segment on the Bills and the Bengals. Do we take the Chiefs for granted?
But why is Chris Jones saying that is my point. Why is he telling his teammates to stay off Twitter? I think the normal lesson is because, like, oh, don't see the hate, don't see the whatever. Like, I think if you're easily the Chiefs are one of the most rabid fan bases. Like, you don't want to see I don't think you want to see the adoration that you're seeing because it could get to your head.
Yeah, and I think for them, you said, like, they're kind of flying under the radar.
Don't you feel like we're not doing the Chiefs thing this year like we maybe should?
It's 8:09 and we're talking about it.
How exciting is that for them? Like, they've been the talk and all of this. Now you kind of get to be the underdogs.
That's a
Let
dynasty
everybody
make.
talk about.
If you're just winning.
7 straight division titles.
Right.
If they win the AFC, none of us even blink.
Right.
There's zero surprise. Zero. I just think it's not that we don't talk about them. It's just that they're understood. It's not, there's not a fresh angle on the Chiefs. We already did this Tyreek. Yeah. They're the Chiefs.
There is space between taking them for granted and just assuming it's going to happen. I don't think I don't think we're there yet.
But I hear you, because all off season, all we talked about were the Raiders, the Broncos, the Chargers, how these teams all kind of put $1 billion into the division to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And here we are, 3 more games remaining in the season, and the Kansas City Chiefs are still in control of their division. So it was just like, my goodness. But I will say, we've talked about Patrick Mahomes as the MVP.
Have we? I could have sworn we were talking about Jalen Hurts for the last.
Yeah, but everybody's talking about Jalen Hurts as the MVP because they're saying, oh, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be the guy. Hey, is Jalen Hurts? Is he a system quarterback? Is it the team around him? No one says that about Mahomes because he deserves it, because Tyreek Hill leaves, and it's just like, is this offense still going to be good? Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is still there, and he's still getting it done, spreading the ball all around. Of course, I was going to talk about the Titans and Texans, but we got...
I mean, they did lose to the Bills and the Bengals. Like, that does matter on the field. The idea that, well, they're amazing. They lost head-to-head to both those teams. Like, it's you know, it's not basing it on nothing. What do you got?
I'm in a whole other online war because I said Jalen Hurts should still win the MVP despite getting hurt if he comes back next week and they finish the job. Yeah. And the Chiefs fans, I mean, they feel really disrespected this season because here they are, they win the division 7 years in a row. We don't even show the highlights on Monday. They do it again, and then Mahomes is going to break like the passing record, and we just are like, all right, if it's not Hurts, it's Burrow or Allen. Like, I feel like there's a feeling of amongst all a fatigue of talking about the Chiefs. And Chiefs fans don't appreciate that.
Except that's what happens with greatness.
Dominant, right? Exactly. Just let that exist. Just swim in dominance for a second, and don't go to you're taking us for granted and you're taking advantage of us.
Sorry, I submarined the whole segment.
It's a fascinating conversation. That's
it's ironic though, because we had to do it to talk about the Chiefs, right? Just to submarine it.
Yeah, we had to zag just to get the Chiefs in.
I also spent 8 minutes on the Jets.